RFK Jr. explodes. Love to see it.
On Capitol Hill, that heated House hearing underway again on the weaponization of government and big tech censorship. President Biden's top challenger on the left, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., is a key witness. And it's kind of ironic that Democrats on the committee tried to censor him today about a censorship topic. They wanted to block his testimony because of some controversial comments that were attributed to him. Watch.
Why would the Republican leadership and the committee majority give a hearing and a platform to the witnesses today, specifically to Mr. Kennedy, a man who has recently claimed that COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and Black people, but tells the Black community and myself, a mother of 5 Black children, that I should really be careful and not necessarily have the same safeguards to protect my family, my children, from a virus that has killed millions of people because I'm Black.
I move that we move into executive session because Mr. Kennedy has repeatedly made despicable anti-Semitic and anti-Asian comments as recently as last week.
Okay, so what that means is they wanted to take it out of the public sphere and put it in an executive meeting room where we wouldn't be able to watch what he said. Well, that didn't happen. They tabled that motion. And then RF Kennedy Jr. said this.
If the views that you and others have applied to me, have attributed to me, if they were actually true, I can see why I shouldn't be able to testify here today. Those are not true. These are defamations and malignancies that are used to censor me, to prevent people from listening to the actual things that I'm saying. And I think, ranking member, that we should have a real conversation rather than an exchange of ad hominem attacks.
You know, I was thinking today, who would cheer this on? China, because that's how they roll. We're not supposed to roll like that.
Exactly. And
Love that. No, totally. Yeah. Oh. It's just like, I nailed it when I said debate purgatory is one of the worst cancerous mentalities that you could have ever unleashed upon Western civilization. Okay, it's nothing else, dude. It's debate purgatory. Debate purgatory has eviscerated modern society. This guy's like, these are ad hominems. Like, address the issue. Awesome. Great. Aya is behind me, enjoying her new chew toy, which is just a stick. Classic.
And what was so interesting to me is he talked about ad hominem attacks there. This entire hearing is Democrats trying to malign, demonize, and push RFK Jr. out of the way. But where did this all begin? Why are we even having this hearing? You go to page, I think it's 8 or 9 of the lawsuit that the judge said, Biden, no, you can't censor people. We're going to stop these meetings from happening. There was a digital director named Clark Humphrey, 3 days into Biden's administration, who sends this email to Twitter. Can we keep an eye out for tweets that fall into this genre? And he sends RFK Jr.'s tweet. Hey, folks, wanted to flag below tweet and wondering if we can get moving on the process of having it removed ASAP. So 3 days in, Biden says, get the RFK Jr. tweet off Twitter. He'd go on to be a political rival.
So, Sean, I try to give people the space and grace to maybe they didn't know that then. Do you think they knew he was coming?
Oh, of course.
Do you
Exactly.
think that they knew he was going to knock on the door to get into the White House and try and possibly run?
I think they had to. And so here's a Democrat candidate who has 20% of the Democrat primary vote. I mean, he's not a small player. He's a huge player in a race against the president of the United States. Number one, but number two, it's a really good point. He's pushing back on the government using agency to have someone else censor in a censorship game that they can't play themselves. It's fascinating. So listen, I love that the Republicans have given him the platform. And by the way, just a reminder, this is what Democrats used to stand for. This is like old Bill Clinton-esque policies that RFK is talking about, not this new.
Literally not even true. Democrats were also very much pro censorship. I mean, Hillary Clinton was like unironically advocating to like ban video games, like violent video games, shit like that. The idea that the Democrats are the party of censorship is so stupid because everyone's a liberal at the end of the day, which of course means everyone is totally on board with censorship of some sort. Is just like what you agree with, okay? That's it. The notion of like full-blown free speech advocacy is a silly one. There's like only a couple people who are unironically like that, and that's, I would suspect, is like Noam Chomsky and shit. You know what I mean? It's so dumb. Why does anyone think RFJ is a Democrat when Fox News is riding so hard for him? I mean, it's kind of like when CNN is riding for DeSantis to drive some kind of wedge. That's it. And he's running as a Democrat, but he's like most prominently known as an anti-vaxxer. And that's pretty much it. That's the reason. RFK Jr. is trying to make horseshoe theory real. He's not like, what do you mean horseshoe theory? RFK Jr. is not like leftist in any way. The idea that like the left is the censorship party right now in this day and age is fucking funny to me, though. When there is one party who has legitimately legislated away like actual books. The Florida Board of Education yesterday approved a controversial standard for teaching Black history. Florida's Board of Education approved new rules for teaching Black history in the state Wednesday, prompting immediate backlash from critics who described the updated standards as a big step backward. The guidelines follow the state's enacting a controversial education law that requires lessons on race be taught in an objective manner that does not seek to indoctrinate or persuade students of a particular point of view. They're talking about slavery, dude. They're talking about slavery. They're saying like it's fucked up to discuss slavery on terms that it was bad. That's an insane thing. Like they're censoring an accurate retelling of history. I mean, come on now. The updated standards on African American history and instruction include benchmark clarifications to provide additional guidance to teachers on specific topics for instruction. One updated standard has drawn particularly strong outcry, directs teachers to include instructions on how slaves develop skills, which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit. They're saying personally, wait, what the fuck is this? That you have to, what? They're saying that you personally have to say, if you're talking about slavery, that like there was some good. There was some good that came out of slavery, like teaching how to pick cotton or clean the house. Like, that's an insane way to educate people. Both sides of slavery is so psychotic. Another benchmark clarification under increased scrutiny directs teachers to include instruction on acts of violence perpetrated against and by African Americans when teaching about the growth and destruction of Black communities during Reconstruction and beyond. Among the examples listed as an act of violence was the 1920 Ocoee, Florida massacre, in which dozens of African Americans were killed when they went to vote. But like, I guess they want to show both sides of the acts of violence. Like, for example, if you were to cover, I guess, the Tulsa massacre, then you got to say like, well, technically, we don't know for a fact if a Black man whistled at a white woman or not. but that was enough to firebomb the city of Tulsa, a blossoming black neighborhood. You know what I mean? Now, of course, they already do this. They've already been doing this, but this fundamentally legislates this way of education. White people are really like, we weren't that bad, guys. Yeah, I mean, this is censorship. This is censorship. This is indoctrination. This is an ahistoric retelling of history with the express intent of brainwashing children. It is how you do it. And they're doing it. They're the ones who are book banning. They're the ones who are basically banning an accurate telling of history. You know what I mean? So the idea that like this is the censorship, like RFK violating a private website's clear-cut terms of service, maliciously and repeatedly by lying about vaccines, that being the main point of contention with modern American censorship is so fucking stupid. Okay? The real First Amendment violation happens at the legislative level. And yet, for some reason, Fox News rarely ever covers that unless they're talking about how brave, bold, and beautiful Ron DeSantis is for being a warrior. It's great. Great stuff. A champion against woke culture. You know what I mean?
New left-wing leftism, Marxism that's come from the Democrats.
Actually, I think Democrats are very nervous about RFK Jr. And I was looking at a Quinnipiac poll this morning. He's got 14% against an incumbent in the White House, the Democratic Party. That is a big number. That's double digits. But, you know, Hakeem Jeffries, about an hour ago, made these comments that where I think this is where you see how worried they are. Yep. This is Hakeem Jeffries. Robert F. Kennedy is a living, breathing false flag operation. His campaign is being run by right-wing political operatives who have one objective, take down President Joe Biden. You're nervous, aren't you?
Who's the right-wing operative running his campaign? I'd love to know.
Me too.
So, but that's also something.
He is, man. He's the guy. He's the guy at the helm. You know what I mean? That's it. He's the guy himself. What are you talking about? What do you mean, right-wing operative? What do you mean by that? Like, it's not like Fox News covers Bernie Sanders on these terms. You know what I mean? RCP gives Biden about a 50-plus average. He has a bigger lead than Trump. What are they talking about? Yeah, the irony, of course, is that there is no real thing happening there either. There is no real there, you know? Like, the RFK Jr. Biden situation, or even Marianne Williamson, who's slated to be here soon, you know, versus the DeSantis-Trump circumstances is awful.
Similar to what the left is saying about no labels, the third party. Yeah. They don't want any competition whatsoever, no matter where it's coming from Joe Biden. But the one that really hit me today was when they were trying to tear him apart, some of the congressmen and women who were, you know, had their 5 minutes on the clock. And it was brought up that he was racist and that, you know, the Tuskegee Project, that his comments about vaccines would then keep blacks from getting a vaccine. And it was an emotional moment when he said, you know, my family members, remember who his uncle was, JFK, signed the end of the Tuskegee experiments. He goes, I was already born then. I mean, the legacy of the bipartisan victories in this.
That's so awesome. Just like glazing JFK, RFK Jr. only because they're like anti-vax as fuck. That's so fire. Personally, I do love that shit. Hold on.
country he's bringing up. He's talking about a time when they all used to get along, and he's talking about his family's sort of place in history. And it pretty much shut the conversation.
Yeah, and it's telling that Democrats would rather attack him personally than actually deal with the substance of the hearing, which was the weaponization of the government against free speech. And it used to be, we don't have to agree with everything that RFK says. We don't have to think that all of his ideas are good. But it used to be that the way that you flesh out the bad ideas is by publicly debunking and debating them. Now, all the Democrats want to do is shut down speech entirely. They don't want to give him a platform. And perhaps it is because they're worried that he poses a significant threat to President Joe Biden.
The collusion is already in the courts, and the Biden administration is already losing in the courts over their attempting to censor social media. So let's talk about facts here versus theatrics.
Yeah. So maybe his rise now in the polls looks like that Jason Aldean song, looks like the Barbie movie. The more you talk about it and put it out there, you're helping him out. Maybe they're nervous about that on the left, too.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.